Very much. Good morning, my dear friends. Hope all of you are healthy, happy, and enjoying the homestay, safe homestay. We are staying at home only. Okay. In the previous class, we were discussing about the tuberculosis, the most important disease in the world. Not only in the world, it is the most important disease for mainly for the developing countries like India. That we have discussed about the burden in the world, burden in India, burden in Andhra Pradesh. Now we'll continue the same, about the tuberculosis disease. Here I will continue up to the clinical features. The program, about the program RNTCP, it will be covered in national health programs by my colleague Dr. Mohan Rao. All the national health programs are being dealt with by Dr. Mohan Rao. So, in spite of, we don't want to duplicate or repeat the same. That's why I will confine and to my subject, and I will stop at that level, leaving scope for the other person to tell about the national health program. Now, coming to tuberculosis. Okay, as all of you know, in the previous class, I had to rectify myself. I told that the Mycobacterium tuberculosis is gram positive. For that, the source is this one. But I have searched and I discussed with some people. I came to know that it is not gram positive. I regret for my statement, which was taken from the internet. So, don't take it as granted that everything present in the Google or internet is correct. This is the lesson what I have learned and what you have to learn. Don't take it as granted. Here you are seeing it is gram positive, but it is not so. At the same time, it is not gram negative also. But some preference to gram negativeness is more than the gram positiveness. That's why we don't use gram stain for the identification of this bacteria. We'll use Gill-Nielsen's technique, Gill-Nielsen's stain. So I regret and I am withdrawing my statement that it is gram positive. Please, all of you, please note. And thanks to the student who have told me, suggested me the correct thing. I welcome those suggestions and our sharing also. Now, for anything, we must have some indicators. Any disease or any program, we will have some indicators. Those indicators will show us how it is now, how it was, and what is the burden of that one, and to compare with the neighboring countries, other countries, like that, the indicators of any disease, that is very useful. For tuberculosis, the epidemiological indices we will discuss now. The incidence, the first indicator is incidence. Incidence means how many cases are occurring in that year, the new cases, including relapse, including recurrence, the total new as well as relapses, all these come under incidence of tuberculosis disease. This is most important one. If the cases are going on increasing, if the incidence is more, we have to put more efforts to control the disease. This is a very useful indicator. Now we are seeing for COVID also the incidence. If you see the Andhra Pradesh statistics also, it is increased. That that gives us some clue, guidelines, and it supports us in controlling the disease. And then the prevalence. The prevalence means the total number of cases either new or under treatment or died during that year, or the patients who left the treatment, patients who transferred out from our area, all these comes under prevalence. This shows the burden. Incidence shows the future. The prevalence shows the burden of the disease. And then coming to mortality. Mortality, as the term indicates, as we understand, the patients or the cases died due to tuberculosis. What is the proportion or percentage of the people dying due to tuberculosis? But in this case, the World Health Organization has categorically, clearly told that the deaths due to tuberculosis with HIV negative. If a person is tuberculosis patient with HIV positive, that death will not come under this mortality. As per ICD-10, this classification has done, that is accounted in the HIV, but not in the tuberculosis. The total number of deaths in TB patients with HIV negative status. Please understand this, HIV negative status. Then the case fatality rate. The case fatality rate, how many cases are dying among the people who are suffering with the same disease? This usually we will express per 1 lakh, like that case fatality. This case fatality rate will calculate and do this one. And the other thing is case notification rate. Please bear it in mind that tuberculosis is a notifiable disease. If you come across a case, or if you are treating a case of tuberculosis or pox disease, it is your paramount basic duty to inform the concerned authorities. If you do not do your duty, that is, if you do not inform, if you do not notify the disease to the concerned authorities, you will be penalized. There is penalty for that. So it is either you are in government service, or in military service, or in state service or central service, or in private practice, or in a voluntary organization, wherever you are, if you come across a case of tuberculosis and you have diagnosed it, it is your paramount duty to notify the disease. Here, it is the proportion of the cases notified to the World Health Organization per 1 lakh patients. How many cases are notified? The case notification rate, it shows the quality of the organization, quality of the healthcare system present in that country. Case notification rate. And then it comes to case detection rate. We have estimations. Among the estimated persons, how many people have been detected? If 100 persons are suffering, or if we estimate that in a village, in a town, there will be 1,000 people suffering with tuberculosis. If you detect only 500, your case detection rate is only 50%, which is not sufficient. The case detection rate must be 90%. It must increase. If you don't detect the case, if you don't diagnose the case, if you don't identify the case, if you don't notify the case, how can that person be getting the treatment? How is it justified? So, case detection is most important. But case detection in which hands? In whose hands it is there? From the base ground root level, the ashas, from the ashas itself, they have to work well. They must be having the knowledge of the presumptive signs, presumptive symptoms the patient comes with, and with that they have to start the work. It should be from the grassroots level. So case detection rate is very important. And the other important indicator for epidemiological indicator for tuberculosis is previous drug resistance cases. Drug resistance, even if you are giving drugs, that Mycobacterium tuberculosis, if it is resistant to that drug, if it is not susceptible to that drug, it is a waste. The person will not be cured of the disease. It is a waste. And moreover, the other drawback is, if a TB person, tuberculosis, a person suffering with normal tuberculosis, he will spread the disease of tuberculosis to the others, to 15 persons per year if he is untreated. But here, he spreads only the normal tuberculosis disease. But mind it, in drug resistance cases, these people will spread the drug resistant Mycobacterium tuberculosis to the healthy persons. That healthy person will get drug resistant tuberculosis instead of normal tuberculosis. Treating a drug resistant tuberculosis is a cost bearing. It is highly expensive. It is somewhat long term, and it is very difficult for us to treat the drug resistant cases. Even for our medical professionals, even for the doctors, the nurses, and the paramedics who are working in the tuberculosis ward or in the lab, if they inhale this drug resistant Mycobacterium tuberculosis, those people will get drug resistant tuberculosis. And after going home, if these people spread the disease to their children, it is the most unwanted and a distressful condition. The children of the people who are working in the pulmonary tuberculosis ward, the drug resistant ward, the drug resistant patients, the excreted drug resistant Mycobacterium tuberculosis, if these are inhaled by these persons, it is troublesome, not only for them, but also for the family members and friends, and who are in close contact with these persons. So, please bear it in mind, these epidemiological indices, all these you will come across, and you must be aware of this incidence, prevalence, mortality, case fatality rate, case notification rate, case detection rate, and the prevalence of drug resistant cases. Here it is not the new one, it is the total number of drug resistant cases, the total number of drug resistant cases. If this burden is more, the total number of drug resistant patients are there more in a locality, in a region, in a country, or in the world, it is a risksome job. So please bear it in mind. We have to follow the World Health Organization definitions, case definitions. It has given clear-cut case definitions. So we have to follow them. Previously, we used to call TB suspect a person who is having cough for more than 3 weeks. Previously, I am telling, not now. More than 3 weeks. Fever for 3 weeks. And weight loss, considerable weight loss. Then we call them as TB suspect. But now, it is not TB suspect. A person who is having cough for more than 2 weeks, not 3 weeks, 2 weeks, fever for more than 2 weeks, and then considerable weight loss in adults. In the case of children, the pediatrics, in children, there need not be weight loss, but there is no weight gain. Even not gaining weight is equal to weight loss. So not gaining weight in children. These people are called presumptive cases. Presumptive case, please mind it. It is not TB suspect. And the other category, these are only presumptive. That means we can presume that these people might be suffering from tuberculosis. But there is another category. We can classify this in other categories also. Bacteriologically confirmed TB case. Bacteriologically confirmed. If we come across a case of presumptive case, a person is coughing for more than 2 weeks, or fever for more than 2 weeks, or loss of weight, loss of appetite, like that, then we must take his sputum for examination. 2 sputum examinations, spot and early morning. The spot sputum examination must be done, and he must be given a container to bring the sputum in the early morning, because in the lying posture, the exudate or the organisms, they'll come into the tract, the respiratory tract, main tract, and in the early morning sputum, the bacterial load may be more. That's why early morning, spot and early morning. If the early morning is not possible, then we can have 2 spot also. But it's not correct. You must have 2 sputum examinations, 1 spot and the other being early morning collection of the sputum. We have to examine. If we don't see any Mycobacterium tuberculosis in 100 fields of oil immersion, 100 fields have examined, there is no Mycobacterium, then it is negative. Then we can call it as negative. If we are seeing 0 to 10 Mycobacteria in a field, then we can call it as scanty. If it is from 10 to 99, it is 1 plus. If we see 10 cases in 10 fields like that, it is there. Under 10 Mycobacteria in a single field, it is 3 plus, like that it is there. It is there in the textbook. You can go through and you can have a thorough knowledge about the severity of infection, the grading of infection, that you can see. Bacteriologically confirmed TB case, he is infective. Please be careful when dealing with that case. And the other category is clinically diagnosed TB. Clinically diagnosed TB. Here, the sputum is negative, but he is coughing, but he is having fever. He may be having loss of weight. Then, the diagnosis made by the clinician, by his clinical examination, that holds good for the diagnosis as TB. This is more so in extrapulmonary TB cases. Extrapulmonary TB cases. Extrapulmonary means not in the lungs. It may be in the bone, skeletal system. It may be in other organs. It may be in the liver. Anywhere. It may be in the mediastinum, thorax. Even in the thorax, it may not be pulmonary. It may be extrapulmonary. The hilar glands, the mediastinal lymph glands, if they are enlarged, or even the pleurisy. These are called extrapulmonary tuberculosis cases. Mostly the clinical diagnosis, this is supported by X-ray. This is diagnosed by clinician. But bacteriological confirmed cases, these must be confirmed by sputum examination, but not X-ray. Previously, when we were students, we used to see the X-ray. Even for mass screening, we used MMR, mass miniature radiograph. A small instrument, with that we'll go to field and we'll have taken a small bit of this much of film, not a large radiograph. And we have screened like that. But now, the diagnosis made on the basis of radiological finding is not valid for pulmonary tuberculosis. Why? Because if we got an ulcer on the hand or the skin, it leaves a scar. It is healed. It is a healed scar. There is no ulcer. There is no active ulcer. But we are seeing the scar. Similarly, when a person has suffered from tuberculosis, there may be a patch. He is treated completely. He is cured. But even then, if you take the X-ray, just like a healed scar, it will leave a scar in the radiograph. So it will mislead you. So the shift of diagnosis from radiological examination to sputum examination, it was made. Now we have to diagnose only on sputum examination, on the basis of sputum examination. And then if it is not there in the sputum, the clinician, he diagnoses the TB as per the other guidelines. Bacteriologically confirmed, clinically confirmed. Even these bacteriologically confirmed cases, these are again classified depending upon the anatomical site. Anatomical site, there are two major categories: pulmonary TB, extrapulmonary, as all of us know. Pulmonary TB, it is of two types, that is primary disease and secondary disease. Primary and secondary. Extrapulmonary tuberculosis, it may be of lymph node TB, lymph nodes, pleural TB, pleural, even though it is in the chest, it is not pulmonary tuberculosis. Pleural TB, TB of upper airways, hilar glands and all those things. Skeletal TB, upper airways means the trachea, the larynx, not trachea, the larynx and those things. Skeletal TB, genitourinary TB, urinary bladder tuberculosis you have seen, genitourinary TB, miliary TB, pericardial TB, gastrointestinal TB, tuberculous meningitis, infection of the meninges, tuberculous meningitis, where we will get stiff neck, and then the other less common forms also are there. So, in pulmonary tuberculosis, there are two types. Those are primary disease, secondary disease. In extrapulmonary, lymphadenopathy, these lymph nodes are matted together. They come together. When a person is in trouble, what he does, they come together. In the same way, lymph nodes, when they are affected with tuberculosis, they come together, matted. They fuse together, and they will give appearance of this matted appearance. Pleural TB, TB of upper airways like larynx and this one. Skeletal TB, genitourinary TB, miliary TB, pericardial TB, gastrointestinal TB, and TB meningitis. Depending upon the history of previous treatment, we can classify these diseases, this TB, as if the person has not taken treatment for more than 1 month. Yeah, number one, he has not taken any treatment. Number two, he has taken treatment but for less than 1 month duration. But for less than 1 month duration, it is a new case. It is called a new case. If he has not at all taken any treatment, it is a fresh new case. Or even if he has taken treatment, it is for less than 1 month duration. If he has taken for more than 1 month, it is different. That is new case. And then relapse. Relapse may occur even if the treatment is completed and the person may be negative at the end of the course of treatment, but again he may get reinfection, like that. Relapse. Failure after treatment. He has taken the complete course of the treatment, but his sputum is still showing positive, the positive for mycobacterium tuberculosis. He has taken full treatment as per the guidelines, as per the advice of the doctor. He has taken the complete treatment, but it is a failure. That means the algorithm may be resistant, or the person may not be active, or he may not be reactive for this. Treatment after last follow-up. The person came for treatment after last follow-up. He was not seen for the consecutive 2 months. He has not taken treatment for consecutively for 2 months. It is called last follow-up. Consecutively for 2 months, not 5 days, 10 days like that. It is consecutive 2 months. Other previously treated patients, outcome not known. In some of the cases, outcome is not known, not documented. Some people, they will go away. They will come for work to some other area and they will go away after the work is over. But he is not bothered about his health. The outcome is not known or it is undocumented. Sometimes he may take the complete treatment, but it is not documented. So because in India it is not uniform, the treatment regime and the protocol is not being followed uniformly, because everybody will have his own fans. This one, Wilson fancies, and even the quacks, they are treating the cases. They will treat by symptomatically, and they do not know the underlying signs and the disease process. They will subset the symptoms only, not the disease. Like that, the outcome is not known or it is undocumented. For that sake, the National RNTCP program, in RNTCP program, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, they have made IMA as part of it. And we are given the job of making uniform treatment. For that, the continuing medical education on TB is going on. Patients with unknown treatment history. Okay, these are the classified the new case, relapse, failure after treatment, treatment after last to follow-up. Other previously treated patients are outcome not known, undocumented. And patients with unknown treatment history, they do not know. They will not be having any a single paper of treatment history, case sheet, like that. In some disasters also they will lose everything, and like that also they may be losing. So like this we classify depending upon the previous history. of treatment. Drug resistance. Depending upon the drug resistance, we will classify the tuberculosis disease. Drug susceptibility testing. Drug susceptibility testing, DST. By using this, we are classifying the disease as follows. Normal, it is susceptible. The Mycobacterium tuberculosis is susceptible for anti-tuberculous drugs. That is normal. Then monoresistance. Monoresistance means here the organisms are resistant to first line of anti-TB drug. One first line anti-TB drug. Any one of the first line of anti-TB drugs. You know, I am sure that you are having the thorough and a very good knowledge about the pharmacology of these anti-tuberculous drugs. What are the first line drugs? What are the second line drugs? And all these things. Monoresistance means resistance to one drug. The drug being the first line of anti-TB drug, not the second line. Among the first line anti-TB drugs, if the Mycobacterium tuberculosis present in that person is resistant to at least one drug, it is called monoresistant. And the other one, polydrug resistance. As the name indicates, it is multiple. Here, the person is resistant to one first line other than INH and rifampicin. Here, it is not one first line of drug and rifampicin. Here, the first line of drug should not be INH. Resistance to INH. It is not counted. Resistance to first line of drug other than INH and rifampicin. These patients are called polydrug resistant cases. Polydrug resistant cases. And then multi-drug resistance. Resistance to both INH and rifampicin. This is called multi-drug resistance. Resistance to INH and rifampicin. I think you have noted the difference between polydrug resistance and multi-drug resistance. In polydrug resistance, we will not consider the resistance to INH. If he is resistant to INH and rifampicin, it is called multi-drug resistance. The other category, that is extensive drug resistance. Extensive drug resistance. Here, any fluoroquinolones, and at least one second line of drug. Any fluoroquinolones and at least one second line of anti-tuberculosis drugs. What are the second line? Capreomycin, kanamycin, amikacin. Among them, at least is resistant to one drug. That means resistant to capreomycin or kanamycin or amikacin. And in addition to this, if he is having resistance to any one of the fluoroquinolones, it is called extensive drug resistance, EDR. And the other category, rifampicin resistance. Rifampicin resistance. Any resistance to any drug along with rifampicin. Any resistance to any drug along with rifampicin. Okay, this is the classification as per the drug resistance. And we will classify the tuberculosis disease in another way also. That is depending upon the HIV status. HIV positive TB patients. Here, the person is HIV positive as well as having TB. HIV positive TB patients. The second one is HIV negative TB patients. HIV negative TB patients. The third category, HIV status not known, unknown TB patients. These three categories depending upon the HIV status. You please think, is it easy for HIV positive case to get TB or TB patient to get HIV? Which way it will come faster? All of you will tell, and it is correct also. The HIV positive people, they are more susceptible for tuberculosis. Tuberculosis being the opportunistic infection, tuberculosis being the opportunistic infection as the HIV positiveness, the immunity comes down and the already present TB organism, the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, it will become active and he will become TB positive also. HIV positive person becomes TB positive. When treating the patient with HIV positive and TB, we must be very careful. HIV positive TB patient's treatment, we should not keep him in the OP for longer time. He must be put in fast track. As soon as he enters into our hospital, immediately one staff nurse or somebody, he should follow that person. Fastly, he must be sent out of the hospital, giving service to him immediately. We should not make him to sit because already he is having HIV and TB. When you are giving an HIV treatment, antiviral treatment, you must be very careful in making this person as in the fast track. You have to give the antiviral treatment fastly and send him out because this person is having TB and there are so many other people with HIV positive but no TB. Those people will also become TB positive if we make this person to sit in the OP or make him to sit along with the other patients. So we have to reduce that infection and we have to reduce the case load by putting him on fast track for health service. Depending upon the treatment outcome, a patient treated for drug susceptible treatment and the other category is patient treated for drug resistant tuberculosis. The classification of TB will consider this as a patient treated for drug susceptible TB and a patient treated for drug resistant TB. Both are not the same. We classify like this. Among the drug susceptible TB, or for that matter drug resistance TB, we will classify among that subclassification as cured patient, cured person. He is cured. He has taken full treatment and he is cured. His sputum is negative after the treatment. So he is called cured. Treatment completed. Here the treatment has been completed. The course has been completed, but he has not successful. He has not passed the examination. In that way, treatment completed, but is not cured. The other thing, treatment failed. He has taken complete treatment, but it is a failure because of so many reasons. Treatment failed, died during the course of treatment. The person may die due to any reason, any reason. If he dies during the treatment, during the time when he is taking the drugs, due to any reason, it is classified into the died. Last of follow-up, we are unable to follow up that case, but we have taken utmost importance, we have given utmost importance, taken steps to not to lose the patient from follow-up. Even if the patient doesn't turn up by the due date for the treatment, then we used to write a card for his address and asking him to come back. And to combat this one, we have put DOTS agents. dots, directly observed treatment, short course chemotherapy, agents for this purpose. Last follow-up. Not evaluated. We have given treatment, he is cured and everything is over, but it is not evaluated. It is not evaluated. And then treatment success. The treatment is success. The cured is different from treatment success. Okay, we will discuss it later. Outcomes of this rifampicin resistance, multi-drug resistant, XDR TB. The same thing like cured, treatment completed, treatment failed, died. The same guidelines for this classification for the resistant cases also. The spread of TB, we must be very careful. The same thing what we have discussed in the previous class. The types of TB. Pulmonary tuberculosis, we have discussed. Primary tuberculosis or Gons complex or childhood tuberculosis. And secondary tuberculosis means the infection that individual who has been previously infected or sensitized is called secondary, or post-primary or reinfection or chronic tuberculosis. Here, primary means the infection of an individual who has not been previously infected. It is a virgin case. Not previously infected or immunized. Is not immunized. It is called primary complex or Gons complex. This 40 years back or 50 years back, we used to see these cases very much, but now we are not seeing because the immunization with BCG, it is it has been taken up in a good way, and almost 90 to 95% of the children are vaccinated against tuberculosis, tuberculosis with BCG vaccination, Bacilli calmetic verini. It is a single dose and a very effective vaccine. So with that, the primary tuberculosis has come down. The secondary tuberculosis, that is post-primary or reinfection or chronic tuberculosis. But mind it, the BCG cannot prevent the tuberculosis in adult population. It is why we are giving means to prevent the child mortality, to prevent the complicated tuberculosis among the children, to prevent the occurrence of complicated tuberculosis among the children, we are giving BCG. Extrapulmonary tuberculosis, 20% of the patients of the TB. If you take 100 TB cases, 20% are extrapulmonary TB. Affected sites in the body are lymph nodes, tuberculous lymphadenitis, lymph nodes. If the TB occurs in lymph nodes, it is called tuberculous lymphadenitis. Seen frequently in HIV infected patients. This is seen most frequently in HIV. The symptoms being painless swelling of lymph nodes, most commonly at cervical and supraclavicular scrofula area. Supraclavicular lymph node enlargement, or usually we'll see the lymphadenopathy in the neck, cervical lymph nodes. Cervical lymph nodes are enlarged. And then the pleural tuberculosis, pleural TB. Involvement of the pleura is common in primary TB and results from penetration of the tubercle bacilli into the pleural space, pleural effusion. We have tapped the pleural effusion, we have put that underwater seal drainage for pleural effusion. In my practice, private practice, I have put underwater seal drainage for pleural effusion for a 12 years old child. 12 years old. He was wandering around all the hospitals with fever for more than 3 to 4 months. He was not cured anywhere. Those were the early days of my practice. not even 1 month of my practice. I have examined thoroughly in the way which I was trained in my college. Thorough examination, systematic examination, and found that there is some fluid in the thorax, and got an X-ray, and it turned out to be pleural effusion, and I tapped and got the pus in the syringe. Then I have put underwater seal drainage, and the fever has subsided, and that gave me a good result, converting the whole villagers to become my patients. So thorough examination of the patient, systematic examination is very essential. During your examinations, we will give 45 minutes time, but even after 45 minutes, you will ask for 5 more minutes. But after the completion of your exams in your practice, how much time you are sparing to the patient, how much time you are sparing in examining the patient. Examination means not only with hands, with your questionnaire, with your history taking, everything. If you take at least for 30 minutes, you will become a successful practitioner. We are not giving that importance, and we are giving only 5 to 6 minutes for the patient. By that, we are losing confidence. So, my dear students, please, for your sake, I am telling, whatever you learn in the college, don't leave it. It is not for examination purpose. It is for your future practice. So, thorough examination, systematic examination is a must. It will yield good results, and you will flourish with that. TB of upper airways, that is involvement of larynx, pharynx, and epiglottis. Here, the TB of larynx, pharynx, or epiglottis. Here, the symptoms will be dysphagia, chronic productive cough, dysphagia, and chronic productive cough. Then, genitourinary TB. Genitourinary system is involved. Here, 15% of all extrapulmonary cases, they are due to the infection of genitourinary system with Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Any part of the genitourinary tract may get infected. Any part. Symptoms: urinary frequency, dysuria, hematuria. Dysuria, hematuria. Frequency. There may be, in males, it may be due to prostate enlargement, hematuria, and this urinary symptoms. If they are there, you have to suspect the tuberculosis also. Skeletal TB, involvement of the weight-bearing parts like spine, hip, knee, spine, hip, knee, pain in the hip joint and the knees, swelling of the knees, and trauma. These are the skeletal tuberculosis. Then gastrointestinal tuberculosis. The Pott's disease also have to bear it in mind. The gastrointestinal TB, involvement of any part of the gastrointestinal tract, any part of the gastrointestinal tract. The symptoms being abdominal pain, diarrhea, weight loss, or in the case of children, it is not gaining weight. Signs and symptoms of TB disease, that is, in pulmonary tuberculosis, it is cough for more than 2 weeks. It should not be neglected. Cough for more than 2 weeks. Often productive. Sputum may come or may not. Can be bloody. Bloody means hemoptysis. Hemoptysis may be there. It can be associated with blood. Fever, night sweats, weight loss, and chest pain. If these symptoms are there, we have to suspect If we say the horse will have 4 legs, all the animals which are having 4 legs are not horses. The lion also will have 4 legs. Buffalo also will have 4 legs. The donkey will also have 4 legs. But it is suspicion that it may be horse. So these are that's why it is called presumptive TB. If these symptoms are there, we can classify this as presumptive TB. Extrapulmonary TB, Mycobacterium tuberculosis can infect any organ of the body. There is no exception. It can infect any organ of the body. Symptoms vary by the site of the disease, where it has occurred. The Mycobacterium tuberculosis, where it has hit, where it is lodging, where it is affecting the site. Depending upon the site, the symptoms will vary. The severe symptoms, if you see in tuberculosis, persistent cough, chest pain, coughing with bloody sputum, shortness of breath, urine discoloration, cloudy and reddish urine, fever with chills. Fever will be there. It may be associated with chills, but not like malaria. Fatigue, easily tiredness. You will get tiredness easily. For small things also, the fatigue will come. And the diagnosis, bacteriological test, Gill-Nielsen technique, and fluorescence microscopy. These are the standard tests. And then sputum culture, it takes some time, some 2 to 3 weeks. So we are not going for that culture for all the cases. For drug resistance cases, we'll go. And then radiograph, chest X-ray. And then nucleic acid amplification. This cartridge-based CBNAT, cartridge-based nucleic acid amplification test. Now we are having in all the district headquarters. All the district headquarters. CBNAT, cartridge-based nucleic acid amplification test. Most useful for the rapid confirmation of tuberculosis in persons with AFB, acid-fast bacilli positive. AFB negative pulmonary tuberculosis and extrapulmonary tuberculosis. Okay. Tuberculin skin test. Now, as we are giving the BCG on the day 1, it is getting less importance. It shows that he has been infected. The tuberculin test shows that he has been infected. The dose 0.1 ml. It contains 0.04 micrograms of tuberculin PPD, and it should be given in the forearm. A wheal will appear. Depending upon the size of the wheal, if it is less than 6 millimeters, it is negative. 6 millimeters greater than but less than 15 millimeters, hypersensitive. And if it is more than 15 millimeters, strongly hypersensitive to tuberculin protein. Other biological examinations, cell count, lymphocytes will increase, protein, PANDI, and okay, ascites, pleural effusion, and meningitis. BCG vaccination, Bacilli calmette verini, first used in 1921, and it should be given in the dose of 0.1 ml. But for the first 15 days, first 2 weeks of life, it is advised to give only 0.05, not 0.1, not 0.1, it is 0.05, but we are giving 0.1 ml. At the site being the insertion of the deltoid on left upper arm, for the uniformity sake, for scar survey, it will be useful if we give it at a single site for all the people. Even if you can give it in the palm or sole or on the face or anywhere, but we have to, it is for the uniformity sake, we'll give to the left upper arm. It will leave a permanent scar. It should be given to all healthy infants as soon as possible after birth, unless the child is presented with symptomatic HIV infection. Diagnosis of, okay, HIV positive. Chest X-ray will show less cavitation cases of extrapulmonary TB are more common. This is another subject. Tuberculosis is a major, it is a specialty, pulmonary tuberculosis. This is a specialty. It is very difficult to finish it within 2 hours or 3 hours. Just I have given the salient points, and you have to study yourself. You have to expand your knowledge by study, but not by my saying. It is just I will give guidelines. You have to go through. You have to expand it by yourself. The preventive measures, the mask, BCG vaccine, regular medical checkup, isolation of the patient, ventilation, natural sunlight, ultraviolet. It is ultraviolet germicidal radiation. This is all very difficult. Natural sunlight is sufficient, but overcrowding must be avoided. Overcrowding must be avoided. Okay, these are the National Health Program, RNTCP, revised National Tuberculosis Control Program, it will be dealt with in national health programs, but not now. So let us stop at this point. Usually this tree will have only one stem, but this is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stems. The fruits also, usually they will have 3 munjas. Some have only 2, but here this fruit is having 4 munjas. Like that, your future, you must flourish like that, and you must have a bright future. For having bright future, it will not come overnight. It will not come for ideal people. It will not come for by its own way or through somebody else. It is by your hard work, smart work, your interest, your enthusiasm, your enthusiasm. Now you are not kids, you must develop your future. Thank you. Let us stop at this level. Chart, I think the time is short. Scanning. Charting ఎక్కడ ఉంది బాబు? Charting. Good morning. I have a doubt about evening rise of temperature in TB. Okay, a good question. In tuberculosis, the temperature will rise during evening. Why? Normally also, there will be a diurnal variation of temperature by 0.5 degrees. But in case of tuberculosis, due to the fight between the organism and this anti-tuberculosis drugs, or this fight between antigen and antibody, the immune system of ours and the antigen, the microorganisms, there may be rise in the temperature by the evening. I will clarify this to you later. You are 141. Better to write your name, I think. 141. Okay. Definitely there is evening rise of temperature in tuberculosis. Name is Jahnavi. Jahnavi, what you told is correct. The previous class also, that is gram negative, but it is not negative, much more towards negative, but not definitely negative. It is not positive also, gram negative. I have verified and that. Good, Jahnavi, keep it up. Day after tomorrow we are having World Environment Day. Not day after tomorrow, 5th June, I think. World Environment Day. If you are having any doubts, you can contact me by WhatsApp. I think you are having my WhatsApp number because the next person is ready, and you must have some breathing time, some rest of 5 minutes or so. If there are no questions, we will stop it here. And you are always welcome by through WhatsApp. Your suggestions are welcome. I will get knowledge by your questions. I am benefited. So, thank you, Jahnavi, and others, all my dear students. Stay at home safely. Safe stay at home. As the lockdown has been released, don't wander around the streets. Don't go out of the house. Your home is the best place. Your home is the best place for you. It is the safest place. So thank you very much.